Hello and welcome to Winchester Now. I'm Mary Blacksland. On today's programme, the changing face of Winchester, we have the latest on plans to regenerate the city centre, how virtual wards are helping our local hospital, and sounding sensational, I meet the Cathedral Girls Choir as they prepare to mark their 25th anniversary. Winchester Radio. It's been 15 years in the waiting, but finally work has begun on a new St Clements doctor's surgery in Winchester. The multi-million-pound building is being constructed on the Upper Brook Street car park and will include 15 consulting rooms, larger reception and waiting areas. It's part of the regeneration of that area of the city, which will see the old doctor's surgery and Friars Gate demolished. The Central Winchester Regeneration Scheme replaced the troubled Silver Hill project. But after years of debate about this part of the city, many are wondering, will it finally happen? Earlier I spoke to Winchester City Council leader Martin Todd. So what's your reaction to work starting finally on the new St Clements in Winchester?
Well, I'm really delighted because, it took a while to unblock it, but it is now unblocked. We've removed all the barriers to going ahead. It's a start, I think, of starting to improve that area of the city and improve facilities for local people, get better GP surgery in the centre of town, and also start to move ahead with the overall programme of regenerating the centre of Winchester.
Yes, like you say, that area is really important for regeneration, the old St Clements, the old Friars Gate. What's the update on that? Is it going to happen?
Yes, it's definitely going to happen. We've been through a very careful and deliberate process in the last year to find a partner, the right partner, to work with in order to redevelop that part of the city. And we're going to be announcing it this coming Monday, who the partner is, and outline of the plans and the way forward for the regeneration of central Winchester. It's a very positive step forward and I'm very excited about it.
You can understand people being a bit sceptical though. We had Silver Hill, that all collapsed, but can you give guarantees something will finally go ahead and when?
So there were huge problems with Silver Hill, and we've learnt from what went wrong there, and there was a report afterwards on the mistakes that were made, and we've addressed every single one of those mistakes in how we've done things this time. We will be laying out the way forward on Monday. Under the terms of the agreement we have with them, within 6 months they have to show us what is called a development delivery plan, which explains how they're going to do the entire project in great detail. And then they have about, I think it's 18 months after that, it might be 24 months, that sort of period to come up with a planning application that covers the whole site in outline, so-called, and has detailed plans for the first phase of construction on the site so that they can actually get going.
So it's still a long way off then, isn't it? And we're still having to look at some quite sort of run-down buildings. It's not really good for Winchester, that, is it?
Well, the run-down buildings are going to be improved in the meantime. So separate from this decision, we've agreed to do work to improve the appearance and functioning of King's Walk. Under the development agreement, that's likely to be quite late in the whole redevelopment process, so it makes sense to spend some money to make sure it continues to thrive in the way that it started to do with the new businesses that you can see in there and the work that we did to deal with the antisocial behaviour in that particular part of town. It's really brightened up that whole area and is working much better. The other thing we agreed at a meeting last week is a plan to demolish the Friars Gate surgery. As part of the development process, we have to do archaeology across the site, so the intention is to start work on archaeology in that part of the development site and also use the space to create a sort of temporary exhibition area where people can find out about the archaeological work that's being done across the whole site and find out a bit more about the history of Winchester. Doing these things well takes time, and what we've learned is that actually if you rush the early stages, you don't take the time to find a good partner, you don't think through your plan in detail up front, you don't do the work that was, for example, to put so-called supplementary planning document in place that outlines what we want to achieve in that area, the project will crash and burn. It's getting these early stages carefully thought through and properly done is absolutely critical to actually making it happen. There's no prizes for going fast and failing.
So it has been a long time coming. What do you envisage it'll look like when it's done?
Well, I think the most important thing is that it will look like a part of Winchester. And I think that was what bothered people most about Silver Hill. The old scheme was that it was going to be a large block, was how it felt to people. We've been absolutely clear in finding a partner that the way the streets work, the way the buildings look, the kind of uses that we see there, the public space that we see there should be complementing Winchester, should be extending Winchester, should feel like part of Winchester. But there'll be some new things there that I think are quite exciting. Like, for example, the intention is to open up some of the brooks and streams that run under the site so that there's open access to the water. And I think that's a really exciting part of it.
And if you were to put a timescale on it, when do you think we might see that?
Already when we do the work for Friars Gate, there will be some opening up of the water and people will have more access to it than they do now. In terms of the detailed timing of when the full works will be done, that's something that we will be discussing and negotiating with the developer over the next 6 months, and that will be confirmed both in terms of timing and location when the full planning application comes forward.
Now for some other stories making the news in Winchester this week. Here's Steve.
Junior doctors at Hampshire Hospital's NHS Trust have joined 3 days of national strike action in a row over pay and conditions. The hospital has urged people only to attend A&E in an urgent or life-threatening situation. It's understood that some appointments and operations have been cancelled. The hospital says its main priority is patient care and ensuring services run safely. Staying at the hospital and the RVS shop in the main reception has closed this week. For the short term, the space in the foyer will be used as a health information point. The charity has blamed a fall in sales for the closure. It's sad news for the volunteers at the shop, as it has been open since the 1980s. There's more strike action on the trains this week. While industrial action on Network Rail has been called off, action by RMT union members on South Western Railway continues. The company says there will be severely reduced services on Thursday and Saturday, and journeys on Friday will also be affected. There are also long-planned engineering works this weekend, so the company is urging customers to only travel if absolutely necessary. Winchester Crown Court is holding an open day on Saturday. The event was postponed last year after the death of the Queen. People will be able to tour the cells under prison ban, sit as a juror in a mock trial, and hear more about the history of the court and how it's changed over the years. A fleet of off-road mobility scooters is being unveiled at various popular sites in the South Downs. The four-wheeled scooters, which will be available to hire, can cover all types of terrain, and it's hoped will help more people access the national park. The first ones will be available at the Queen Elizabeth Country Park. The project has been funded by a £174,000 DEFRA grant. And the work on the new play area at Abbey Gardens is nearing completion, and the park is due to open at the end of the month, in time for the Easter holidays. It began last September. The revamped play area includes a new slide, a fully accessible roundabout, and a popular train. New paths have been laid to improve access across the park.
Winchester Radio.
Nearly 2,000 patients have received hospital care at home thanks to new virtual wards in Hampshire. Virtual wards enable healthcare professionals to support and treat people in the community who would otherwise be in a hospital bed. Our area is one of 10 national pilot schemes across the country. Sam Jackson is the Clinical Services Manager of the Virtual Health Hub at Hampshire Hospitals and explained to me how it works.
The idea is you are unwell before coming into hospital, or you have been in hospital and we can look to get you home sooner. You are at home either with a telephone or an oximeter, a probe that you put on your finger, or some kind of sort of a simple digital technology where we will follow you up either by telephone or you texting in results. You don't need to be particularly digitally enabled. If you don't have a phone where you can text in results, it can all be done via a landline. It can be done by support of a relative. It can be done by the support of a friend. It's a really simple concept of sort of a wraparound care from skilled clinicians in an office who are able to facilitate face-to-face visits, prescribe medication, sort of amend care plans, have a chat with your GP, have a chat with doctors in hospitals or district nurses or whatever you need really to try and keep you safe at home, or if you need to, come into hospital but bring you in sooner so we sort of catch you earlier if you're becoming unwell. And therefore, if you are in hospital and you do need to come in, we try and keep you in for less time.
And what sort of problems, what sort of illnesses could be treated with a virtual ward?
So it's really broad, actually. So we run somewhere in the region of 9 virtual wards. So the main work that we do is around frailty, and obviously that's a syndrome, so that covers multiple conditions. We run a virtual ward for heart failure. We run one for COPD. The longest standing one is COVID, and that's still around. We also run one for chest infections. We do one for people who are awaiting sort of diagnostic tests after they've been discharged from hospital. So that's sort of CT scans, MRI scans, or blood results, as well as various others. So it's really, really, really broad. So it's almost like we're running a virtual hospital as opposed to one specific virtual ward. And with that comes excellent support from doctors who are sort of have oversight of those virtual wards. But the hub itself is run by nurses, pharmacists, and physiotherapists like myself, who are able to prescribe and sort of treat you. But the fact that we run multiple different virtual wards means the team have got much more skill to be able to manage more complex patients at home.
Can it really replace, though, seeing someone face to face? Can you properly diagnose and treat someone that way?
Not in every circumstance, and I don't think we're ever trying to replace that. So if you need somebody to put a stethoscope on your chest, you need somebody to put a stethoscope on your chest. If you need an x-ray, you need an x-ray. We're not trying to deny people care in hospitals. We're not trying to deny people seeing people in any way, shape or form. So we work really closely with our partners in Southern Health. They run a service called the Urgent Community Response, which is a 2-hour response service where nurses, occupational therapists and physiotherapists can go out to see you, take blood, have a look at you. I think it's really important that we stress that if somebody needs to see you, we will arrange somebody to see you.
And what difference has this made to the hospital in terms of sort of freeing up beds and things like that?
It's hard. The hospitals are incredibly busy. So all the data that we've looked into has shown that every sort of on average, a patient that's admitted to a virtual ward has had a reduction in length of stay by 3 days. And we've taken well over 1,000 patients through the virtual wards as it stands. The virtual wards aren't the single thing that is going to fix the busy hospitals. It's sort of part of the armoury and the portfolio of services that the hospital offers to try and support it as best we can. But we aren't freeing up wards and we haven't suddenly got empty beds. We are as busy as we've ever been, but I think without it we'd be even busier and we'd be under even more pressure. So it is making a difference, but it's hard to say that we are the thing that is doing that.
And those, I think, 1,700 people I think you've treated so far in these virtual wards, what have they said to you about the experience?
Brilliant feedback, really, really, really positive feedback. I think it can be quite daunting. You can sometimes feel isolated when you become unwell and you think you're getting unwell and you don't know where to turn. Or certainly when you've left hospital, there's that sort of transition period between hospital and the community. You've been discharged, you've been given lots of different information from the hospital, you've gone home on new medication. So we've had 98% of positive feedback, and that 2% wasn't negative feedback. It's just they didn't feel it offered them any benefit because they felt confident in managing their condition. So as it stands, we've had no negative feedback about the service from the 1,700 people that have come through. Everybody just thinks it's brilliant that I know that I've got a skilled clinician on the phone 14 hours a day to be able to speak to if I've got any worries. And it really is any worries. It doesn't necessarily need to be that sort of bespoke about your condition. We're there really to answer any questions about your discharge, about your illness or about your ongoing care.
And this is something that presumably could grow in the future.
Absolutely. Nationally, clearly there is a drive from central government to increase the amount of virtual wards that are being run across the country, and it will continue to grow. Everything that we're doing at the moment is showing huge benefits to hospitals, to local providers, to ambulances, to our colleagues at Southern Health. But we need to ensure that we do it properly, because there's amazing work that's going out there in the community, which is very similar to virtual ward type work. And we need to make sure that we're not trying to step on other people's toes. Where there is good work going on, we need to continue that good work going on. But where there are gaps and where we can look to support, I think it would be sensible for us to do so.
Time now for our special mentions for those who've made a difference to the community this week, including an update on a story from last week. Here's Paul.
A big thank you has been given to everyone who donated to the charity Winchester Street Reach following a campaign to raise money for a pool table for their young people. The charity provides outreach to young people, particularly those from a disadvantaged background, and say that they were overwhelmed by the support to their GoFundMe page. Enough was given to fund not just one but 2 pool tables. One will be used at their base in Unit 12 and the additional one at their youth club in Micheldever. Last week we interviewed Helen, the founder of Lullaby Africa, a charity that's helped thousands of women build bonds with their children in places like Kenya and Uganda. A quiz was held at the weekend to raise funds for their valuable work, and thanks to all those who went along, £550 was raised. An £11,500 donation has been given to Hampshire Hospital's charity towards a fund to improve children's health services. The charity's Magic Lion appeal is raising money to redecorate the children's ward and invest in equipment and play facilities. Now it's been helped by staff from Basingstoke company The Champion Group, who organise multiple events, including a golf and fishing day, so a big shout out to them for raising such a great amount. And Winchester Hospice were pleased to receive a generous donation of fresh flowers from Waitrose in Winchester. They were placed in the building for patients, family and staff to enjoy.
Winchester Radio.
Finally, Winchester Cathedral Girls' Choir is preparing to celebrate its 25th birthday. Recently, a record number of girls attended an open day to experience life in the choir. And last week, auditions were held for a much sought-after place. I was invited along to rehearsals to record this special feature. Beautiful sounds echo around the rehearsal room in the Cathedral Close. There are currently 17 girl choristers at Winchester Cathedral, aged 12 to 17 years old. They rehearse twice a week, sing at regular cathedral services, as well as special concerts, broadcasts and tours. I met members Rebecca and Lauren.
My friend who was already in the choir actually introduced it to me because I was looking for people to sing with. I wasn't really into choral music at all. It took me 6 months to fall in love with the music, fall in love with the atmosphere, especially around Christmas time. And it's like when you go into the cathedral later in the evening and there are all the like colourful lights and there's just the juicy chords and it's just goosebumps everywhere. It was a lovely experience to learn to appreciate this kind of music, and I think the minute you've found the beauty of it, it's so, there's nothing better than it, I think. When we rehearse with the men especially, and the basses hit the very low notes, or the tenors and the altos hit the dissonant note, it all comes together and it's just gorgeous.
So similarly to Rebecca, I knew somebody who was already in the choir and she invited me to come on the open day. Singing wasn't really something that I'd done much of before, especially not singing in buildings as amazing as the cathedral, but I was really drawn to it. So I came, it was actually my birthday when I came on the open day, so I really, really wanted to come and I just immediately loved it. Like, it's such an incredible experience to be able to sing in such a beautiful place with incredible people. And like Rebecca said, when it all comes together, it's just the best feeling. So I just immediately really, really wanted to be a part of it.
Do you get really nervous when you're standing in that awesome building and there's people listening?
For the first few years, I was surprisingly unbothered by it. I didn't really feel nervous at all. I was like, oh, this again. I think more recently, when we've started doing solos, and it feels like the higher up you get in the choir, the more responsibility you have to like be right all of the time. It gets a bit more nerve-wracking, but because it's such a supportive environment, I don't feel like it's ever really, really scary.
So you've been in it for a few years now. What would you say has been the highlight of that time?
Absolutely Christmas. I love Christmas. Everything about the cathedral at Christmas is the best thing. Midnight Mass is my absolute favourite, just because the atmosphere is so amazing, and Christmas is a time when we do so many concerts and so many rehearsals that it just feels like everyone becomes a bit closer. The music we sing is just amazing.
Recently, 30 girls signed up for a taster session. Some had experience of singing and others very little, let alone in the cathedral. Auditions have also been taking place, with around 4 to 5 places available. Claudia Grinnell is the sub-organist at Winchester Cathedral. And how tough is it to get into the girls' choir?
Tough, I think it's possibly a terrifying word, isn't it? We always say we're looking for potential rather than someone who is absolutely there straight away. That person might exist, but we usually find that it's potential first. So we ask them to do a piece that they've prepared, so something they're really comfortable with. We test their range, so we go high and low, and then we test their ear, which is, for me, the most important thing. So it starts really simple. You know, I play a note on the piano. Can you sing that note back to me? And then we get more complicated. We play several notes at once and we ask them to pick notes out, or we play them a little phrase and get them to sing it back, clapping rhythms back to us, all that sort of thing. And it's really about not necessarily getting it right first time, although that's really handy. It's actually about, if they get it wrong, can they work with the feedback we've given them quickly to learn how to do it right the second time. That's what we're really looking for, because that's what we're doing in rehearsals, is always improving and learning new skills.
And what do the girls say they get out of being in the choir?
Most of the girls say that the social aspect is really what is most important to them. The girls come from all different schools in the area. When they come in, actually they haven't spent all day with each other, so it's really lovely for them to come and catch up at rehearsals. The social things that we do are another chance for them to spend time together. So we went ice skating before Christmas, which was terrifying, as you can imagine. We're going pottery painting next week. On the flip side of that, they work really, really hard. Having bonded as a group of friends and as a team, they then get to sing in this incredible building every week, sing the most amazing music. We live stream, we broadcast, so it's going all over the world as well. And I think to have that opportunity to sing somewhere so amazing at such a young age is kind of life-changing. It's something that they'll never forget.
And a lot of people think of the boys' choir, don't they, when they picture Winchester Cathedral, but the girls are just as important, aren't they?
Absolutely. We're always looking for opportunities to really boost their contribution. We certainly don't think of them as the B team or the second-rate team. The boys sing more services. That's because they're based in the close at the cathedral school, but the girls are absolutely just as important to us.
And do a lot of the girls then go on to pursue music as a career?
Lots of them do, yes. Lots of them are learning other instruments. We've also got one girl learning the organ, which is really exciting. She's decided she wants to be a cathedral organist when she grows up. But actually the skills you learn as a chorister are applicable to every aspect of life. There's the team building, there's the discipline, there's the fact that you can stand up and you can perform when it really matters. And those are things that actually they can take with them with whatever they do.
Music like this has been played in Winchester Cathedral for centuries, inspiring worshippers and visitors alike. A tradition Winchester and the girls are very proud of. And you all get on really well as a choir as well. Is it nice to be part of that team?
Oh, absolutely. Because we're such a small group, there's not much room at all for cliques. We're really just one big group of sisters in the choir. It's really great. I'm so glad that my friend introduced me to it, because it's something that once you have it, you can't unhave it. It's always going to be a part of you.
I couldn't imagine leaving this year and just not doing it again. I mean, recently they've said that they'll extend the age that you can stay until, so I'm hoping to stay another year. I think I'll try and pursue it for as long as I can, because it's just such an amazing hobby to have.
Beautiful voices bringing an end to our programme for this week. Many thanks as always for listening, and goodbye until next week.